friends. Hi folks. Today I would like to talk about a book that I recently finished as an audiobook, and it is Mona Awad's Rouge. I've not read any of her other work, but this one had me absolutely enthralled. It's, I guess, a horror. It's quite surreal, very dark, and goes into some quite deep places with self-worth and beauty and skincare YouTubers. I would like to read what it says about the book on Storygraph, which is where I first got recommended it. So let me get my mug of tea and I'll show you the description. This is my lovely Itala mug. I love it more than any other mug that I own. I have it in 4 different colours, because look at this magical fairy tale of a mug, and it holds so much tea, can't be without it. Anyway, for as long as she can remember, Belle has been insidiously obsessed with her skin and skincare videos. When her estranged mother Noelle mysteriously dies, Belle finds herself back in Southern California dealing with her mother's considerable debts and grappling with lingering questions about her death. The stakes escalate when a strange woman in red appears at the funeral, offering a tantalising clue about her mother's demise, followed by a cryptic video about a transformative spa experience. So already there you can kind of tell with the themes about beauty and about grief and loss as well, which just escalate this completely obsessive behaviour that turns into something that you really don't expect when you start reading. Anyway, with the help of a pair of red shoes, Belle is lured into the barbed embrace of La Maison de Méduse, the lavish, culty spa to which her mother was devoted. There, Belle discovers the frightening secret behind her and her mother's obsession with the mirror, and the great shimmering depths and demons that lurk on the other side of the glass. Snow White meets Eyes Wide Shut in this surreal descent into the dark side of beauty, envy, grief, and the complicated love between mothers and daughters. With a black humour and seductive horror, Rouge explores the cult-like nature of the beauty industry as well as the danger of internalising its pitiless gaze. Brimming with California sunshine and blood-red rose petals, Rouge holds up a warped mirror to our relationship with mortality, our collective fixation with the surface, and the wondrous deep longing that might lie beneath. Now, having read that before I started listening to it, I was a little bit apprehensive because I'm not really into sort of beauty products and that sort of thing. I mean, I like a spa day as much as the next person, but I don't have that obsession. But I think it was so much more than that. It was an exploration of grief and of envy, and there were certain parts of the book that made me want to stop listening while also being absolutely unable to stop. There was a particular scene quite far on in the book, I think, past the halfway point anyway, where Belle, through certain beauty treatments, has lost quite a lot of her memory, and she's convinced that she still works in her mother's shop where she has not worked for years, and she goes into the shop and acts like she works there while the manager is trying to convince her that she's not, and it's so uncomfortable, and I was cringing, but it's written in a way that's you're completely in Belle's head, and I think that's why it was so uncomfortable. You never see anything that happens in the book from another perspective. It's purely from her, sometimes deranged perspective, and it gets very surreal in her head. And I think maybe that's where people would get split on this book. I personally loved it. The fact that you kind of got to go along on her journey of absolute madness, and you got to sit inside her head there, kind of knowing what was going to happen, almost yelling at her not to do certain things, and still just being along for the ride, for the inevitable. It was certainly something. I think I've already spoiled stuff, so I'll mark this video as having spoilers. The cult that I guess she joins it at the spa where her mother went, is so... It's a kind of mix of the Black Lodge of Twin Peaks and some sort of Lynchian Eyes Wide Shut scenario where everyone is so highly stylized and the environments are dreamy and surreal and don't quite make sense. And it's like reading somebody's dream, and you don't quite know if it's real or not. And I guess by the end you could argue that it wasn't. Yeah, very fun. I'm not sure I agree with the ending, but we'll get to that. So Belle's mother dies. She goes to California to sort of sort out her estate. She finds out that her mother has sold her clothes shop, which was her sort of pride and joy, to her partner, who's kind of ruined it a little bit. She also finds out that her mother has huge debts, and her beautiful, I think it's an apartment, it might be a house, has fallen into disrepair. There are all these men about that may or may not have been her mother's lovers. There's the window cleaner and handyman, there's her lawyer, and there's some other people as well. And at the funeral, as the description says, this woman in red appears very mysteriously and sort of tantalises Belle into eventually coming to this spa that's very secretive, but they immediately accept her, and they start calling her Daughter of Noel, or just Daughter, our daughter, and it's really creepy. It's like they've always known her, even though she's never seen them before, and you don't quite know what hand her mother had in all of this, whether her mother was trying to protect her from it, or whether she was maybe using her in some way to achieve her own beauty goals. But anyway, she gets given this free treatment at the spa, and she comes out, in her own opinion and in everyone at the spa's opinion, she comes out looking radiant and beautiful, but her memory's scrambled. She's forgotten where she works, she's forgotten names of people, she has slip-ups with words which are really amusing when you read it, and she catches herself sometimes and sometimes not. So, for example, she maybe says, I kissed him on the lips, except she says, I killed him on the lips. And other things like that. I can't think of any examples now. I should have written them down. But these slip ups sort of foreshadow quite obviously what's going on, but it's still amusing and unsettling. And I think the voice that Mona Awad writes with does that really well, like being amusing and a bit ironic and sort of being quite knowing while still making certain scenes feel very, very unsettling. Like when Belle has gone through 3 treatments, I think. The way she speaks is very childlike. She can't remember words. She makes up new words for things. She's sort of completely detached from herself and her own personality in a way that seems very final, but it isn't, obviously. And you never quite find out what this culty spa, what the aim is, whether it's their own beauty or whether it's eternal life, because you're constantly in Belle's head and she's not finding out what they're doing or why. You just see what's happening through her quite addled mind. What the spa actually does remains a mystery, but it reminded me sort of a kind of vampirism. Like, through these treatments that people are given at the spa, their sort of soul or their memories and feelings and personalities are sucked into these jellyfish that are kept in these huge tanks. And just saying this, it seems absolutely bonkers, but these jellyfish, they grow as they're filled with more and more memories of the people who are being bereaved of their memories. And it's then revealed at a sort of final banquet that the people running the spa, this actual cult, eat the jellyfish and absorb the souls of the people that they've drained. So in that way it's kind of vampirism by proxy, I guess. It's very strange, and it all feels, when you're reading or listening to it, very, very dreamy. And I like it, and I also hated it, but in a good way. So I don't know about the ending. I wanted it to be more dramatic. Oh, there's a fly. Go away. I wanted it to be more dramatic. It was quite dramatic. The tank with the jellyfish broke and the spa flooded and loads of people died, and Belle managed to escape along with the jellyfish that was also her mother. But I don't think that Belle should have been punished more, or that she did anything that warranted punishment. She was just sucked into this through the grief of losing her mother. But I don't know, she kind of comes out of it seeming she's back to her own self and she's uninjured. She's recovering and picking up her life again. And I guess it ends on as dreamy a note as the whole book was, almost. But she sort of comes through it all quite purified. She's no longer got this intense obsession with watching beauty videos and doing this absolutely ridiculous, over the top skincare routine that she does in the beginning. I did like it though. In spite of that, I loved the journey of it, and I think I would give it 4 stars. Had the ending been as unsettling as the rest of the book, I think it would have been a 5. I think that's all I have to say about Rouge by Mona Awad. There were some. Oh no, actually, I should say as well that the narration of the audiobook, which I listened to on Spotify using my free hours, was absolutely perfect. I loved how the narrator did accents and different voices. It was just the one narrator, and she did an incredible job portraying Belle and her mother and all of the different, mostly men, I think, but she made them all distinct with accents and tones of voice, and she captured Belle's sort of delirium really well. So I enjoyed that a lot. Do give it a listen if you're an audiobook person. But yeah, so my next video, I was thinking I'm gonna do an October TBR. It's not gonna be a big one because I'm working and I'm also studying, so I don't have time to read that many books, but I think I'm going to aim for maybe 3 or 4 books. So I'm going to start picking them out today, and I'll post a video next week about what my reading plans are for October. Stay tuned.